Assalamualaikum, my name is Muhammad Irfan Hilmi bin Muhammad Rusli. We have chosen Brazil as our country and we choose question number 1 from 4 questions given. Brazil is the largest country in South America. It comprises of a massive triangle on the continent's eastern side with a 7,400 km Atlantic Ocean coastline. The economic history of Brazil may be summarized as a series of booms and busts. Inflation of Brazil. Inflation is measured by the yearly rate change in the typical consumer cost of getting a weaker container of goods and services. Brazil's economy is both open and closed because of the lag trade price have to respond more strongly to domestic supply shocks.
Now I want to talk about the inflation rates in Brazil. So in 2016 it's very high rate of inflation rates in Brazil between 2010 to 2020. The rates of inflation in 2016 is to 10 is 10.71%. The next year, which is the 2017, the inflation rates decrease, which is 5.35%. After that, the downward trend of inflation rates has continued, which is the rates in 2018 is 3%. After that, have a little increase in inflation rates, which is the rates in 2019 is 3.78%, and also in 2020 have a little increase, which is the rate is 3.92%.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Muhammad Azmi bin Muhammad Nazi. I am from BA1193B. My student ID it is 2020619696. This is graph based on the economy in Brazil. With these results, we find that this graph shows descending and ascending performance. So what is the reasons? So let my friends will tell us the cause. So let's begin.
Inflation rate of Brazil. After luring investors with 4.5% growth in 2010, Brazil's economy now faces a toxic combination of economic contraction and high inflation. In 2011, inflation was running at the high end of the Brazilian central bank's inflation range and threatened to rise above it. Brazil's yearly rate of inflation is anticipated to rise to 10.33% in December 2015, diminished to 6.64% following year, in line with analyst estimates. That's all from me. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Faris Iskandar bin Hanimuddin and my matrix number is 2020481602. The issues that related to the analysis found for Brazil is hyperinflation. Hyperinflation is a term used when inflation rates exceed 50%. This is typically caused by rapid growth of the supply of paper money. Hyperinflation in Brazil occurred between the first 3 months of 1990. The month inflation rates between January and March 1990 were 71.9%, 71.7%, and 81.3% respectively. According to the International Monetary Fund, is defined as a period in which average monthly price level of goods and services rises by more than 50%. Brazil has had extremely high inflation for almost a decade. The nation sustained hyperinflation for less than half a year. So that's all from me. Thank you.
Okay, next. The second cause of inflation is monetary inflation, which is an overexpansion of money supply. Monetary inflation is also can define as a prolonged increase in country's money supply. This cause can occur as a result of variety of circumstances, including public expectation, fundamental condition and economic development, and delivery channels. Hence, it results in price inflation, known as inflation, which is an increase in the overall level of prices for goods and services. And money supply can increase through two causes, which are expansionary fiscal policy and expansionary monetary policy.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Adam Hafiz, and today me and Shafi will share about the causes of inflation. There are three types of inflation: demand-pull inflation, cost-push inflation, and monetary inflation. And today we will analyze only two types of inflation in Brazil, and they are cost-push inflation and monetary inflation. Firstly, I will explain about the cost-push inflation. Firstly, when there are shortage of labor and raw supplies, crop failures or capital, cost-push inflation occurs. As a result, production costs rise while aggregate supply falls, raising the price level. Even if aggregate demand remains constant, the supplier can charge a higher price because there are fewer goods or services available. For the first time in 4 years, Brazil's inflation rate reached 6.1% in March 2021. It occurred as a result of rising fuel prices, which increased total inflation. Another factor contributing to rising fuel prices was an increase in transportation expenses of 3.8% in March. Firstly, I will show you the figure 4. This figure shows the graph depicts the unemployment rate in Brazil from March 2020 to March 2021. We can see that the jobless rate in Brazil reached an all-time high of 14.7% in the first quarter of 2021. It has risen by 0.3% since February of 2021. Unemployment increased after COVID-19 struck that country. As a result, the amount of labor and product produced decreases, while the price of goods and services rises. Next, Brazil's unemployment rate increased from 13.9% in December 2020 to 13.9% in the first quarter of 2021. This was worrying since, according to the Brazilian Institute of Geography and Statistics (IBGE), it was the highest jobless rate since 2012. Although it was partly due to the seasonal reason. When workers hired at the end of the previous year were let go, the unemployment rate increased. As a result, the unemployment rate increased at the start of each year. IBGE also stated that the number of unemployed persons has climbed by 0.9 million from 13.9 million, with 15% of them contributing more than a year before. Brazil's economy minister, Paulo Guedes, displays numbers showing official job growth in the first quarter of the year, but he also stated that the informal labor market suffered as a result of the epidemic and remains weak.
In conclusion, an economy also depends on the right political system. Otherwise, a country will face a crisis such as inflation. Therefore, the people must be very important in the development of their country. This is because only those who are able to organize their country will be good or not. It is their right to decide that if the wrong leader is chosen, the country will fluctuate. So, that's the end of our presentation. So, thank you.